Zach Berman's going to join us coming in here in a second. Is he there? PHLY Eagles, Zach Berman. Zach?
I'm doing great. Good to see you. I'm enjoying the Shady Rays ad. I'm sorry to hear about the apple picking, but as long as you get back by 1 o'clock, Tyler, that sounds all good.
So for every guy out there, next week's the bye week, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. The bye week is normally when I have to have the duties of going to Lynn Villa or whatever apple picking place that we go to. So I'll probably be doing that next week. And it's always good because you'll see the guys out there and they'll kind of nod to you like, yep, I'm here today too. So I'll see everybody next weekend.
I will be doing the same thing next weekend. That October bye means I have no choice.
Exactly. All right, we'll talk about the game in a second. We were just talking about the Oakland Coliseum, last game by the A's. Trivia question for you and Tyler. There's one other stadium that was designed to be a baseball and a football stadium, a multi-use stadium. There's only one left. That was the trend with the Vet, Riverfront, right. Three Rivers, and everything else. And the Oakland Coliseum, if you remember, was one of those stadiums that had the dirt. I remember growing up and you'd have the football games on the dirt. Candlestick was the same way. They didn't have anything for the infield. So the question is, what stadium that's currently being used in Major League Baseball was originally designed to be a multi-use stadium?
It's being used in Major League Baseball. And that's because there's some football ones that, like the Dolphins where they play, the Marlins did play there, but the Marlins have since moved out. So
not originally designed. It's tough. And think outside the box because it is not used by an NFL team, but it is used by a professional football team.
Ooh, okay, this is a good one here.
Tyler, do you have a guess?
This is a tough question.
It is.
And Zach brought up, a couple. Like I was thinking about the old Arlington Stadium where I know that the Renegades or something like that play now. I don't know if they're even still a team. I don't know the answer to this question, to be honest with you.
I believe, is it called Rogers Stadium up in Toronto? That was designed for the Argonauts. So when they built the stadium, they said, "Hey, we're gonna have CFL football here." So it was a trick question, Zach. I apologize.
That's so you got me there because I was thinking about my my NFL tours, right? And I haven't gone to Toronto with the NFL, but I do have a good memory in the Oakland Coliseum. That's where Foles had his 7-touchdown game.
Yes, we were talking about Foles before. All right, so before we talk about the game. Orlovsky goes on ESPN yesterday and asked the question, is asked the question, have we seen the best from Jalen Hurts? Have we already seen his peak? How would you answer that question? What do you think about this?
Well, it's hard to play much better than he did in 2022. Like that was an outstanding level of football that will be hard to reach on a consistent basis. I think we've probably, that might be the best season he has. I wouldn't necessarily say we've seen the best of Jalen Hurts because there's different things Jalen will do throughout his career as he improves. But it is hard to reach that high water mark on a consistent basis.
Right. So I guess really the question is, has he regressed? Like for me, has he regressed? The turnovers since the beginning of 2023, we know what they are. I think that he's taken a step back as a passer because the league has adjusted to what the Eagles were doing. But like progression, regression, the track of Jalen Hurts as a passer, where do you see him today?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I think after the way he played in 2022, opposing defenses had an offseason to watch him. You saw defenses adjust last year, and I do think he regressed last year. You saw the turnovers go up, and it's all about the counterpunch, right? So this year, the Eagles' counterpunch to their counterpunch is changes in the offense, and that's why Kellen Moore is here. You see in the efficiency numbers, Jalen Hurts is playing much more efficient than he has in the past, but the turnovers are still present. So I think that he regressed last year. I think it's too soon to make that determination this year. I think the turnovers are the problem this year, but I think overall, the way he's reading defenses, the adjustments he's making at the line, he's making some high-level throws this year. So I actually think I've seen him have more progress this year, but he needs to cut down on the turnovers without a doubt.
Yeah, it's weird because you always want to talk about the quarterback, and it's always going to be about the quarterback, But we know while it's always about the quarterback, the design of the offense, the play calling, the players around the quarterback mean just as much as anything else. Now, Jalen has great players around him. We'll talk about injuries in a second. But they've also, they got shut out in the first half last week. They scored 15 points. They scored 21 points against the Falcons. The offense was good against the Packers. But, like, overall, this offense this year, they've gotten yards. Like you had said, like I think I look at I look at this offense this year and I'm like, yeah, the offense has been pretty good. But when you look at the results, the overall results, they haven't been there as far as points.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they haven't been good on fourth down and haven't been good in the red zone. And those are two variables here that are affecting the overall points. I don't know how sticky either one of those stats are going forward here. They are going to be better on fourth downs. I'm curious to see if Nick's overreactive and kind of changes his fourth down aggressiveness. I don't think he should, but I could see that being a reaction to it. But the fact that they're moving the ball, that they're getting into the opponent's side of the field just about every drive for the most part, that's a good sign if you think about long term. But the points that they're leaving on the board is a major problem for the offense. There's little reason why this offense should be scoring 15 points, 21 points. They should be an offense that's pushing toward 30 and above 30 every single week.
Hopefully they get there. Since you brought up the fourth down thing, I'll get into this before the injuries. Is a lot's been made of, is Nick the one that's really making the decisions? Is it all him and then he's giving Kellen Moore calling the play, or is Nick overruling him? And when you ask Kellen Moore about it, I don't even really know what he says. And you ask Nick about it, and it sounds like that maybe he's not the chief decision maker. What's your read on the situation? And you just mentioned you agree with the Eagles being aggressive and going forward on fourth down.
Yes, we can split this up two ways: the play calling and then the fourth down decision making. The play calling, the offense, this is all Kellen Moore. And I understand there's been a lot of conversation this week about Nick calling that fourth down play last week and what's Nick's involvement. I think that story is being a little overblown. I think Nick fell on the sword last week, but I think that this is Kellen Moore's offense. You see the play design. You see him calling the plays. He's running the offensive meetings. Every player I talk to will tell me that. So this is Kellen Moore's offense, and I'm holding Kellen Moore responsible for this offense, right? As far as the fourth down decisions, those are Nick Sirianni's. And I agree with them when the numbers bear it out. Now, the numbers didn't bear it out on that, play at the end of the first half last week, because your odds of getting a touchdown aren't the same as it would be in a clock neutral situation. But I think, and I know Anthony disagrees with me on this, but you don't date the numbers, you marry the numbers, right? So the example that I always use is if I'm at the blackjack table and I double down on 11 against the 6 and I lose, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it the next time, because I'm following the numbers, right? And so if you're making decisions based on data, you have to do it over the course of time so the sample size is in your favor.
All right, and you get me with the blackjack comparison, because I'm like, it drives me nuts when dealer's showing a king and someone stays on a 16.
Yeah.
And it screws the whole table, because then you see it play out and it's like, we all would have won because he would have busted. But you're right. You have to remain consistent. The difference is the cards are the cards, right? Like that doesn't change unless you're counting into a deck. The cards are the cards. Games are different. And sometimes you have to take a feel for what's going on. Like, is your offensive line failing to protect? Are you not able to run the ball well? For the most part, Zach, I agree with you. I'm okay with going forward on fourth down a lot of times like he is. And let me know what you think about this. And I actually heard Howard Eskin was talking about this yesterday. It's the first I heard really anybody talking about it. I don't believe they were going for the first down at the end of the first half last week. I think they were trying to score a touchdown. I think Nick Sirianni thought he was going to be able to score a touchdown. They had a similar play against Washington the previous year, about the same spot on the field, to where he thought he was going to get a touchdown, because doing that for one more shot at the end zone, where you could get sacked, you could not throw the ball in the end zone, where you could come away with no points, or even a fumble in the exchange is a real possibility. It's not worth it. I think he thought he could score a touchdown on that play.
I think it takes a certain amount of hubris to think you're going to score an 11-yard touchdown there, right? On that play. Now, there is validity to the fact that they didn't line up the way they wanted to on that play. They couldn't burn a second timeout because you can't go timeout.
Right.
But that's not an excuse, and that doesn't absolve the decision either, right? If you're calling a play, you have to rep the play enough that you're comfortable with where your team is in preparation for it. And yeah, I think that there is there's a lot of hubris to think that you're scoring a touchdown on that play. I understand if they're preparing for the quarterback sneak and there's a lane there for Saquon Barkley, he can get to it. But there's a variety of things that could occur that could keep you from the end zone, including what happened, but also the defense could read it. Those linebackers can run too. They can get to the edge. So I think it takes a lot of hubris to think that you're scoring a touchdown on that play.
All right, let's talk injuries. AJ Brown didn't practice. Devontae and Lane didn't practice. Although I saw your video that you posted on Twitter. He was out there. Concussions. Would you say they're all not likely to play on Sunday?
Devontae and AJ, I would say that. I'm not expecting those guys to play. Lane, because he's out there on the practice field, you can deduce that he's a little farther along in the concussion protocol. So it wouldn't be inconceivable for him to be cleared by Sunday. But I think that for all intents and purposes, you need to prepare for Fred Johnson being the right tackle. But Lane's the one who I would keep an eye on because he is farther along the fact that he's out there right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It was scary to see him thrown up on the sideline, though. Because as watching the game, and it's like Lane Johnson thrown up on the sideline, I'm like, oh, Jesus, is that a concussion? And it was. So I almost wish that they would take the decision out of the player's hands and say, hey, you got to sit out a game. There's no.
Yeah, so they do. So they do, in the sense that this one's, concussions are actually out of the team's hands too,
right?
Because they can't, like, the team can't say you're try to push through this. He has to be cleared by the independent neurologist before he's even eligible to play. So that one is out of their hands. But in Lane's case, I've covered his entire career here. He has 4 documented concussions, and that doesn't account for any undocumented concussions. So it is something to be mindful of. But every concussion is different in nature. Lane's, you kind of didn't see like the specific time it happened, as opposed to Devontae's. We all saw that one happen.
All right, your thoughts on Sunday? You just mentioned Devontae and AJ most likely not playing.
Yeah.
So we have Johnny Wilson, Dotson, who has done nothing so far, and Paris Campbell. And I guess you're going to be relying on a heavy dose of Dallas Goedert again.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think this offense is going to look, certainly not going to look dynamic without those wide receivers. It's built around the wide receivers. That's a major detriment to this team going into this weekend. I think their best hope for winning this game is to keep it ugly, is to hope that Jalen Carter can be forced on the line of scrimmage, which I inviting matchup against Cody Mauch this weekend. He goes back to a place that's close to where he grew up. It's a game he's excited for. I think if the Eagles defense can keep the Bucs under 20, the Eagles can win this ugly. But I'd be worried about this offense without those two guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of feel the same way. PHLY Eagles, Zach Berman, who I could talk to for much longer than the 15 minutes or so that we got on, because there's so much to talk about with this game and this team. But he's a very busy man because he's an author of the franchise, Philadelphia Eagles, A Curated History of the Birds. Congratulations on the book. I just checked this morning to see if it was available at Amazon. It is. Yep. I invite people to go to their local bookstore, like the Town Center bookstore by me up in Collegeville, where I have seen copies of it up there. So get out there and get the book. How's it been so far? How's everything going with it?
First off, I appreciate it. I kind of feel like Jason Kelsey sometimes, like overexposed and talking about the book all the time. But I'm proud to do it. The reception's been great so far. The book takes you through the last 25 years of Eagles history, the coaches, the quarterbacks, the decision makers, the moments that kind of made this team special. You can relive a lot of moments that were kind of part of my 13 years covering the team and my childhood even. The listeners and fans probably feel the same way. I'll make a quick shout out for one quick event. If you're a PHLY diehard, we have a diehard exclusive event Monday, October 7th in the studio where you are right now, where John is right now. And you can come to the studio, have a Q&A, have good food Vince is putting together, and you can get a signed book. So you can register for that on allphly.com.
That's crazy. I was actually talking about how we got to get the diehards in here to do stuff. That's a great idea. Now, Zach, if someone sees you on the street or at Wawa, do you have copies of books in your trunk? And I'm being serious about the copies of books in your trunk.
100%. I am shameless when it comes to hawking this, right? But you write a book so people read it. And I always say if I didn't want people to read it, I would just write a diary. So
Right.
I have this everywhere I go. I'm going, if there's anyone going down to Tampa this weekend, I'm going to pack a few in my bag. I sold one on the flight last week to a lovely woman sitting next to me coming back from New Orleans. So I have no shame. If you're interested in buying a book and you see me in the airport, I'm keeping it in my bag this weekend.